Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2U's of 2U's Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2U's Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Marsha.
Happy post-Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy post-Thanksgiving to you too. It's
or as I call it, Thanksgiving Recovery Day.
Thanksgiving recovery weekend, right?
Weekend, yes, because this is actually Saturday.
Yeah.
So for our non-U.S. residents, listeners, Thanksgiving was Thursday, and we're now recording on Friday. Or excuse me, I'm sorry, on Saturday morning because I think we were both a little you had projects on Friday, and then I was just honestly exhausted.
Yes, recovering.
Let's talk a little bit about Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I had a nice time. I have to say, I was a lot of, if I had more of a regular schedule about when I dust and vacuum, my mother always had certain days of the week that she did things,
right.
Laundry was this day and grocery shopping was this day. I've never been that kind of person. And so when I say this, it makes it like my house was not that bad, but it had been a couple of weeks since I had dusted and vacuumed.
Mm-hmm.
So I dusted and vacuumed the whole house and, cleaned bathrooms and threw out magazines that were piling up and, all that kind of stuff you do. Yeah. And then you have to get out the silver and, great grandmother so-and-so silver and all the you don't have to do that, honestly. but you could just use the everyday stuff. But why have it if you don't use it, right?
Well, and ours, most of the time, or it used to be that the dishes that I used for Thanksgiving were in the cupboard because I have 4 sets of dishes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of dishes in the cupboards in the kitchen. A lot of dishes in the cupboards in the kitchen. And but now that I have the Thanksgiving dishes, they were downstairs. And so Robert went down and got those. Well, some of them arrived in the mail. Thank you, Marsha, for shipping them.
Yes, I know.
Because Robert bought some more while you were here.
We were it was so funny. This is the dangers of the internet. And because there's a shop here in Seattle. We were actually, do you remember we were riding in the truck to Pismo Beach when I was looking at the Instagram account of this shop. So I saw on the Instagram feed, and so we were in the truck, and I called my brother, and he went down and looked at them and got the price. And then the next day, I think Robert called him and said, yes, buy them. And so Mark went and bought them. And then when I got home, I shipped them to you.
Yeah. And the irony is that now our Thanksgivings are going to be smaller because my sister and her husband have moved, and one of my nieces is already in Washington, and the other one just moved up to, moved from Reno. Well, she moved from San Jose to Reno, and now she's moved from Reno to Sacramento. So she wasn't here because of that move. Anyway, the irony of our Thanksgivings are probably going to remain smaller.
Yeah.
Unless I find some people on the street to join.
Yeah, really? Yeah. But I have to I'm just going to say something about my food that I cook, though. I was actually really pleased with myself. Last year, I ordered food, one of those pre-made dinners from Whole Foods.
Yeah, you had done that for several years and liked it, right? And then last year...
Well, I did a couple of years ago, and I remember we thought it was really good. Last year, terrible. Like, it was really, it's just like not fresh, just awful. And I think this is my theory, is it's no longer, Whole Foods is no longer Whole Foods anymore. It's owned by Amazon. And I think the years before when I did it, it was not owned by Amazon. And I think it's just changed. I don't know. We didn't think it was very good. And then the year before I did because we were in the middle of the pandemic. So I think there's just 4 of us, or I don't know how many came. It was very small. And my bubble came. And I just did a turkey breast, Ina Garten recipe. And it was, my brother always refers to it as the salt lick turkey. It was so salty. It was almost inedible too.
Oh, wow.
It was terrible. It really was awful. In fact, I think the next day I just threw it all away. It was terrible. So this year I just made everything. And I have to say, I was delicious. And Kelly, in fact, did you listen to the episode of The Daily that I sent to you?
Oh, no, I didn't.
About turkey, over the years, all the different sort of manifestations about how we cook a turkey and all the pressure that's on people how to cook a turkey. But really what a turkey is, it's just a big chicken, right? So I did sort of your method. I modified it, but, and this is how I cook a chicken, and this is how you cook your turkey too, is you cook it breast side down. And so I did the turkey that way I roasted it that way for like an hour and 15 minutes, probably breast side down. And then I don't think you flip yours back over, do you?
No, I used to. When I started it, I would flip it back over, and then I just decided that was too much mess and trouble and hot, greasy turkey waiting to fall on the floor. And I just, I gave up. I just leave it upside down the whole time.
Because then when you do it, cook it upside down, then you don't have a really beautiful turkey to present, the Norman Rockwell idea of having that turkey.
We don't do that at our house.
Yeah, I don't do that either. I just carve it all up and put it on a plate. So I did flip it over and then cook it, breast side up for another hour or so. But I have to tell you how I flipped it over. Because I always would try flipping it with tongs, and your point, it's kind of dangerous and difficult. But I bought a pair of those silicone gloves. So I just used those to grab the turkey and flip it over.
That's what I ended up. Yeah. I didn't use those.
Really
I had pot holders. I had pot holders that I just sacrificed to turn the turkey over extra pot holders that just got all greasy and then went to the laundry. But yeah, I mean it's fine. I'm sure it makes it a lot prettier. It's not very pretty when you I do turn it over to carve it because that makes it a little easier. But it's cooled a little bit by the time I turn it over to carve it. But I like that way of cooking it. I have never had a complaint. No one has ever complained. But I like that.
No one complains, to your point.
No one has ever complained. I've gotten compliments on the turkey every year. This year I only cooked one. Usually I cook 2, but we were having a smaller group and I only cooked 1 turkey. And we're going to be done with leftovers today. That's unheard of. I mean, that's like unheard of at my house. But it was fun. We had a great time. And then I spent yesterday working on projects, which was fun.
Yes. So we should talk projects. I am going to interject something here, though, before we start talking about projects. I just a follow-up to our last episode. And you have it here in the show notes, so I have to mention it. But the Pismo beach socks, so I think we said the same thing too. We didn't record this, but we said the same thing to ourselves, and we had a listener, Francesca Quinn, also made a comment that I should have worn my Pismo beach socks when I went to the trailer rally in Pismo Beach, California.
Yeah.
So,
I think we were out on the beach and I was mentioning to Marsha that the beaches in California, everyone thinks of them kind of as all the same, and they're not. And the beaches where I grew up going as a kid, we always had very little pieces of shells. I mean, we always found, you do that as a kid, you get shells off the beach. But I remember going to Pismo Beach one time and being just like so excited because you have these absolutely complete whole clam shells, the half a clam or half a mussel, the whole, that entire half is there.
Yeah.
And being so excited about that. And I was, telling Marsha, this is like classic Pismo Beach. This vision of all these clam shells, like classic Pismo Beach. And then Marsha was like, oh my gosh, the one place I haven't brought my Pismo Beach socks. I should have brought them.
Yeah. So I'm amazed at Francesca's memory. She has a really good memory because I don't think I've talked about those. I mean, I talked a lot about those Pismo Beach socks because they went everywhere, but I haven't talked about them in a really long time.
It's been a while,
yeah.
So
she has a very good memory.
You bought the yarn in 2014 and started them not long after, and I don't think you finished them until maybe 2017, 2016. Those socks took a long time.
Yeah, it took a long time
to be finised. So
I'm on Ravelry, so while you're we're talking, I can look them up. But
yeah, I thought that was funny, so I wanted to make sure that we mentioned it.
Oh, here we go. Pismo Beach socks. I started them in January 2015, and I finished them March 2018. So 3 years.
Over 3 years to finish your socks.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
That is funny.
Anyway, and then the other thing I wanted to say when I got home, and I always listen to our episode when I'm walking the dog, and I was listening to it, and there's two things I wanted to say. The fact that we couldn't remember Ethel's name.
I know, it's so crazy.
And this was my thought as I was walking the dog, listening to us talk, that it's almost un-American that we don't know. We could not remember.
I know.
And then the other thing I wanted to say too, when we were talking about the trailer, and this might be too much information, but I was sleeping I brought my sleeping bag, and I was sleeping on the sofa part at the front of the trailer, and in my sleeping bag. And every morning I would go to get out of my sleeping bag. And you know how I'm a restless sleeper, and so you start twisting around. The zipper would be underneath me, and I could not. Every morning I would struggle, and I would
flopping around like a fish in a net.
Yes. And so I was thinking about that too when I was listening back to the episode, that I didn't mention that, and I don't know why it's so funny to me, but it is just funny that I would struggle to get out of that sleeping bag every morning, 'cause anyway. Okay. Should we talk projects?
Yeah, let's talk projects.
What do you have? We talked a little bit before we started recording, so I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I have a couple of finished projects. One of the finished projects is a second purple hat. The purple hat that I've lost it. I don't know where it went. I was wearing it. The first purple hat that I finished out of the Invictus yarn and the Countess Ablaze lace weight, using the bankhead hat pattern. And then I made a second one because I had enough yarn left over and I wanted to use up all my yarn. And so I made a second version. And, my plan was for them both to go into the charity hat pile. But when I made the first one, I liked it so much I started wearing it. Well, now I can't find it. Maybe I left it at school on my desk. So I've been wearing the second purple hat that I finished, exactly the same hat, same yarn, same pattern, everything. So I've been wearing that. In fact, it's a good thing, Marsha, that we aren't recording a video episode because I'm still in my pajamas and my robe, and I've now taken it off. But I did have the hat on because I was cold, and I have a shawl that I made wrapped around me and then wrapped around and back and tied over the top of my robe. I look like I don't know what. And now with the hat off, my hair probably looks even worse. Anyway, I had to kind of laugh. It's a good thing we don't record It's a good thing we don't record video because I am not suitable for video this morning. No, we're audio podcast material.
Yes, thank goodness. Yeah.
So I am knitting on another hat right now. Right as we speak, I'm doing the ribbing, and it's another Invictus yarn. This one is a sport weight. Well, the other one was Lilacs, was the name of the yarn in sport weight, held with a lace weight strand. This one is called Marigolds. It's a beautiful, really happy orange. And Mary is spelt like Mary, Merry, making Mary that. It's a really happy orange color. And so I'm doing a knit through back loop ribbing, 2x2 ribbing on this one just to change it up. And then I think I might do the bankhead pattern again because I liked that. I like the way that turned out. And then this will also be another hat for the charity pile. And then I have to get them delivered because it's getting cold. It's the time of year that people starting to be the time of year here in Salinas where people could actually be using them. So I think I'm going to take them down to, or mail them or drop them off at Dorothy's Kitchen here in Salinas this year. Last year I brought them to the Knockers retreat. So that's what I'm working on actively right now is just this hat. And then besides finishing the purple hat, I have finished the woven curtains for the trailer.
Yes, this is so exciting.
Yeah. I finished the fabric before Thanksgiving. And then I hemmed them the week of Thanksgiving. I would sit in the morning before I would go to work. And instead of reading Ravelry and reading the newspaper and all of that, I sat and did some hand hemming of the there's 4 panels. And so I hand hemmed. I pressed them and then hand hemmed the 4 panels. And I thought, you know what? Hand sewing, it's so relaxing. I find it to be really relaxing. So I hand hemmed them. And then yesterday, before I did the casing at the top, because the 2 windows are not the same size for one thing. But before I did the casing at the top, I had Robert let me into the trailer. It's covered, but it has a zipper place where you can get in the door. I had Robert let me into the trailer and, hold up the cover while we could get the door open without ripping the cover. And then I went in and I had my phone. I'm like, okay, I'm going to text you, let you know when I need to get back out. I pinned them up, the casing for the rod, and put them on the rod. And I heard the ping come through of the picture. So you do have the picture in your...
I do. I'm looking at them right now. You sent me pictures. They look really nice.
So I'd like to take a picture with better light, but the trailer's covered. So that's all the light that we have. But we can put a picture in the show notes of the curtains, just pinned up there for now. Or maybe I'll get a picture today because I think I'm going to have Robert let me into the trailer and then I'm going to actually hang them because I finished the casing yesterday. They're all pressed. I really like them. They turned out great. And Robert liked them so much that I said, what do you think of a fabric like this? Not holey, not lace, but a fabric like this for the curtains in the front, for the drapes. And he said, yeah, he thought that would be good. And then he started talking about the lining. And I'm not lining these ones in the back of the trailer because they are lace. They're Swedish lace. And I said, well, I could do this fabric for the lining without the lace, just plain weave. And then you'd have the same, you'd have almost all the windows being the same on the outside, and which he likes that idea a lot. He's not a big fan that the back window and the kitchen window are different, but I love that table runner that I use to make the kitchen curtains with the lace at the bottom, crocheted lace at the bottom. I just really like that kitchen curtain. So let me just tell you information about the project. So I used it's called Mark's Cotolin, and it's a 60% cotton, 40% linen blend. It's a Norwegian yarn. It's not made anymore. That particular brand isn't made anymore, but they do have a similar, and there's a 22-2 is the count on it, which it's kind of like thread. It's a 2-ply thread for the warp. And then I used a different cone of linen, Belgian linen, that was a 1-ply, and that's what I used for the weft. And it's all in the natural linen color. And then the warp has intermittent 1-thread brown stripes. And those brown stripes are the Sally Fox fiber cotton it's called Sierra Sienna brown. So it's a natural brown, natural dark brown cotton. So yeah, I'm really pleased. I know I went online and looked, I can get the 22-2 Cotolin, and I found a 1-ply linen that I can get that I think is probably the same thickness as the one I had. It's hard. That one's not labeled. All it just says is made in Belgium. So no other label on that cone of yarn. This is all from my spirit yarn weaving stash. And then the pattern for people who are weavers is called Swedish lace, and it has weft floats, so little sections where the fibers that are going across kind of float over the other fibers, and they kind of squish together and make little holes. So like 3 bars. The motif is like 3 bars of these weft floats, and then in between the 3 bars, you've got little holes that are made by that weaving structure. A couple of lessons learned from this project, because I was really concerned about getting them to be the same length, which I'm not sure I really needed to be that concerned, because I made the in-between part was just plain weave. And so I had a little flexibility about where I cut them. You know, I could have kind of cut them to make them the same length. But anyway, because I was so fixated on the fact that I can never make 2 dish towels the same length, I was measuring like a fiend, right, as I was going along, when really I could have been counting the little motifs.
Right.
And so it ended up not to matter because of where the fabric ended up getting cut off, and also the fact that the top of the curtain goes up under a valance. It ended up not mattering, but I didn't quite. I have some of them where I turned it over and hemmed it was on the plain weave, and some of them where I turned it over and not hemmed it but made the casing, turned it over and made the casing. Ended up being down in the Swedish lace part of it, which, like, okay, I don't know how that. I was so fixated on the length that I didn't think about how many rows of the Swedish lace did I do, which is what I should have been thinking about, because in some of them I did an odd number, and in some of them I did an even number of the Swedish lace motif. I don't know why. But I have to talk softly here. But there's the other thing that I will just warn people about is if you're using 2 different weights of the exact same yarn that looks exactly the same in terms of color, right? And the cones are about the same size. When you finish with the one cone that you don't need anymore, put it away so you don't accidentally grab it and fill your bobbin with the warp yarn instead of the weft yarn.
I know why you're speaking softly.
Which is slightly thicker. Yeah. So I have a little section where that happened. luckily the color is identical and you can't really tell. I can tell where it is because it is a little bit bigger, but no one else will be able to tell. And so anyway.
And that no one else is
Robert.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, this is true about mistakes in whatever project it is. We see it, but if we don't say anything to anybody, nobody ever sees it. So, the joke when my brother and I were building the deck that one summer, guess what, Kelly? There's some mistakes in the deck. And our whole thing, the whole summer long, we'd like, oh, we'll just put a pot on it. Like one of the planters on it, Yeah. So, but when people come and look at the deck, they can't see it.
Right.
Because they don't know the adjustments we had to make and the mistakes we made, So, yeah, if you don't say anything, nobody sees it.
Right. And the main reason I'm saying it here is because I do think it was a learning experience for me. This is the first, this is the first thing I've made that I've made some things that I wanted to be really nicely done for other people. But a lot of my strategies in weaving have been to kind of avoid ending up in a situation where a mistake would show. Right? Like, I made a blanket for my sister, and one of the things that I did with that blanket is this was partly a plan and it was partly a hack. I used all kinds of different yarn in the warp. And one of the things that I had noticed from my weaving class is that when people used different warp yarns and they made stripes with them, they wash up differently, right? Some of the wool fulls more than others, and so it would make the shape of it kind of wonky.
Right.
But if you mix them sort of where you hardly ever have more than 2 or 3 threads of the same one together, you avoid that situation happening, right? And of course, everyone who's listened for a while knows I'm always using random bits of this and that because I have so much de-stash, spirit yarn, weaving spirit yarn that has come from other people's stashes, and I don't always know what it is, and I don't always have enough of the same thing for one project. So I've done that kind of thing, and with something that colorful, if something goes wrong, you're not going to notice it. If I had a threading error and then I had to correct the threading error, I could correct the threading error with an extra, throw in an extra thread, and you're not going to notice it. So I have to say, I'm not a very technical weaver, and a lot of my strategies are both to use what I have, but also to make it so that an error is not going to be super glaring. But this was not that way. And so I was kind of sweating it. And I was actually hoped that I thought I would have enough weft left over to be able to do another half a panel, or, because I made a 2-panel long piece of fabric, and then I made another 2-panel long piece of fabric, and I thought I was going to have enough to make half again as much and have a 5th panel, but that didn't happen. I think because I had the original error in my threading that made them too narrow, so I had to take it off and retie it, and so I lost some length in that process, but. Anyway, I mention it now because I think it is an important rule going forward that I will use. Yeah. I got the warp yarn out because I wanted to use it to do my hem stitching. And I had already wound one bobbin, and then I didn't put it away. And so when that one bobbin ran out and I wound the second bobbin, I wound the second bobbin off the wrong comb. Yeah. Yeah. So just that's a rule that I will make for myself going forward.
Yeah. Put it away. Yeah. Or label it or something, or just put it away. Yeah.
Just put it where it's not even, right? There was no reason it should have been out, right? As soon as I got my thread to do my hem stitching, it could have gone back on the shelf and it wouldn't have even been a candidate for using to wind. So lesson learned. So yeah. So my next project is the back window curtain, bedroom window curtain, which is that tablecloth with the cherry blossoms. And I bought some vintage linen. It's not really vintage. It's like 1980s, which I don't consider to be vintage. But anyway, it was right off the loom linen. And I washed it yesterday because it's a little thick for lining fabric, I think. I'm still not convinced it's going to work. I just maybe need to go get something thinner. But I'm going to try it in boiling water and freeze it and iron it and see if I can get it to be a little, it's still, it's very stiff. It's not like a vintage linen that has been washed and dried and washed and dried and washed and dried.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that I'll be able to use it. I may just go get a lining fabric because, at first I told Robert I wasn't going to line it, but you can, it's the back of embroidery. Yeah. Right, that will be showing out the back window. And it's not ugly. It's a very nice job, but it's still the back of embroidery. So, yeah. But I cut those yesterday and measured and cut and did all that. So they're ready to, once I have lining fabric, they're ready for the casing to be sewn at the top and put the bottom bar, install the bottom rod because the back of the trailer slants. So it needs to have a rod at the top and it needs to be stretched between two rods so it doesn't hang down, onto the bed. Yeah. So that's my other fabric, fiber project that's ongoing. And then I have one last project that I just want to mention that maybe some people saw on Instagram.
Yes, I was going to ask about this.
Piano. That piano, Marsha.
Yes.
So Robert found out that my Aunt Pat wanted to get rid of the piano that she bought back in the 80s. My Aunt Stella died and left her and my mom a little money. Aunt Stella was their great aunt. Great aunt? Aunt. No, Aunt Stella was their aunt, my great aunt, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was my
I believe so. From
she
was the discussions we had when I was there. I think that was the...
Yeah. So, anyway, Aunt Pat wanted to get rid of it. It's from Robert has, found the serial number and looked it up and all that. And it was from the 1910s, sometime in the 1910s. He wanted it because he likes the wood. It's like, I don't know what, it's got very strong, it's some kind of oak, I think, with very strong graining in it. Has a name, but I don't remember what it's called. Tiger oak anyway, it kind of looks like tiger stripes. So he wanted the piano. It's kind of in an awkward place in the living room, waiting for us to figure something better out. But my aunt said he was supposed to learn to play this one song, the Thanksgiving song. Well, there's no song in this book that came with the piano called the Thanksgiving song. Plus, he hasn't played it at all since he got it. I don't think he doesn't really have any interest in playing the piano. He wanted to have the piano.
I'm going to interject because you know my feelings about the piano.
Oh, yeah.
We won't get into that, but anyway.
So it sounds, I think it sounds pretty decent considering that it hasn't been tuned.
Yeah.
I guess you're supposed to have them tuned every time you move them, and I'm not sure when the last time was that it was tuned. And I also read that, some of the older ones, it's not even possible to get them back in tune. So... But it doesn't sound horrible. I don't think it sounds horrible. Anyway, I've been working my way.
Horrible,
yeah, I've been working my way through this piano book, which is kind of. It's my brother and I were looking at it last night because he teaches music. He's like, "Oh yeah, I would have to black out some of these titles if I were using it for my class because it's got songs, it doesn't say it's songs from around the world or anything, but you can tell they tried to have diversity in the titles of their songs, but not with very much sensitivity at all. and my brother said, this is actually pretty bad for 1987. Because that's when the copyright date is on it. So, but I've been working my way through the beginning, learning where my fingers are supposed to go and practicing scales with the right, like the right fingering technique. So you can do 8. Never occurred to me there's 8 notes and only 5 fingers. So how do you do that? So I've been doing all that kind of stuff. It's been pretty fun. I'm not planning to give a recital or anything, become a pianist. But it's been fun to play around with it. So I found some sheet music for Jingle Bells, which I kind of remembered. We had a organ, one of those electric organs, not a big one, a small kids version. This would have been back in the early 70s probably. And I remembered playing Jingle Bells. It's 3 3 3 3 3 3 3 5 1 2 3. It was all by numbers, right? You just did the numbers.
Yes, yeah.
And so I was like, okay, how is that going to work? And so I went and found some music so I can learn to actually play Jingle Bells. And I've started doing some with both hands, which is super hard. It's been fun. I'm enjoying myself. I'm totally self-taught at this point. I don't really anticipate that I'll go take lessons. We'll see.
So I wanted to ask a question, because when I was down there in beginning of November, there was all this talk about finding that song, the Thanksgiving song, because you were supposed to play it on Thanksgiving. Did you play anything on Thanksgiving for this crowd, this group of people that all your family that came?
No. Well, okay. Let's see, what did I do? I showed my brother one of the songs that I was kind of where I was in the book. But no, I didn't actually sit down and play. The kids played it. Faye especially, and she actually has quite a good ear, for, like, she didn't just bang on the piano. She picked out, she doesn't know piano, but she picked out things and played things that sounded really pretty together. So, so that was kind of, fun.
Does your brother play the piano?
He does. He said not very well. He plays trombone, and several other instruments. He's being a music teacher. He plays several other instruments, but his main instrument is trombone. So anyway, my piano project is a work in progress. It will never be a finished object. But I did find out the name of the song is called The Song of Brotherhood. And so it's above my abilities right now. So I'm not going to be able to play it on Robert's behalf, but I wasn't able to do that for Thanksgiving. But I am going to get to it at some point. I will learn it, and then when I learn it, I'll send it to my aunt.
Next Thanksgiving. You'll have a year, so it'll be next Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So anyway, something to keep my brain occupied. And I only, I sit down for 15 minutes at a time here and there. So it's been fun. So what about you? Nice. What about your projects?
I've only been working on 2 projects. My spinning project has just been set aside for a while because I made the 2 skeins when we were together. And then I just came home because I've been working on Ben's sweater mostly. I will say, while we were sitting here talking, I was knitting on the socks that I'm working on for my brother. And I have about a 1/2 inch more to knit, and then I'll start the toe of the second sock. So I'm almost done with those. They should be done, before we record again. And then, but I have to talk about Ben's sweater. So, I'm not going to go into the whole sad history of this sweater, but I finished the body. Well, I should qualify that. I've knit as much on the body as I can until I can measure Ben. So I've knit almost 14 inches of the body. And I finished the Fibonacci sequence so far, which I have to look at my notes. I did, so there's 6 rows of green in between the brown stripes. And so my order is 4 brown stripes with 3 rows in each stripe. Then it goes to 3 rows of 5 rows of striping.
So 3
and then
3 stripes of 5 rows?
What am I? Yeah, 3 stripes of 5 rows. And then it goes to 2 stripes of 8 rows and 1 stripe of 13. And then I did a last 6 rows of the green. So I've done that. And yeah, it's about 14 inches. So now I think I wanted about 16 and a half. So I have to make, well, and I need to try it on Ben. So I need to decide, is it long enough? If it's not long enough, do I put in another stripe sequence, which, Kelly, my Fibonacci technique would be, or my Fibonacci sequence would be, if I put in another stripe, it would be, wouldn't it be 13 plus 8?
Yes.
Which would be, quick, do the math.
21.
That would be 21. And I think that's too much. So I'm kind of wondering because that would be, if I'm getting 7 rows to, 7 rows equals an inch. And if I put, that would be another 3 inches. Plus then another almost an inch of the green stripe before I start the ribbing. So I don't know, or maybe it would just go that 21 row brown stripe and then straight into green ribbing. I don't know. I'm at this point where I need to put it on.
Yeah.
Ben.
You might, it would look fine if you stopped doing the stripes and just went back to the green.
Yeah.
Your striping sequence is over and now you're back to the green. Because you have green at the top too.
Yeah,
Just
I think
plain green.
I think it might look better having a bit more green at the bottom. It might look more balanced. I don't know. It's one of those things you don't know till you put it on somebody. And the only thing I can do is I do have my dress form, which I can put it on the dress form and see. Because Ben is his chest is 33 and a half inches. He's very, he's muscular, but he's really slender. So, but he's tall.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm working on the first sleeve. And I've decided on the sleeves, I'm just going to do I'm not following the Fibonacci sequence on the sleeves. I'm just going to do 3 rows of the brown separated by 6 rows of the green all the way down. I think that'll look okay. But I have to laugh. And again, I really can't talk about it because it's just like so much about this sweater that I've gone through. But do you remember when I was knitting it, you can, the second time I knitted it following the unpattern, you can put in shaping. So you can put in, sort of feminine shaping where you go in a little bit, then go out again, decreases, then increases. For a man sweater, you want to just do some decreases. And I think I put in 3 decrease rounds. So I don't know how many stitches that was. Completely forgot to put in the decrease rounds on my 3rd attempt. And I'm like, I am not ripping that sweater out, man. Like it will just be nice and roomy.
Right.
So it's
the one that he said he liked was very straight up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am not putting it, it is not that big a deal. It's not as big a deal as knitting it on the wrong size needles, which I was also thinking of when you were talking about your weaving project, and the lesson was when you finish with that yarn and you're not going to use it again, go put it away. I cannot explain why I knit the entire sweater the second time on the wrong size needles.
Yeah. Where did they even come from?
A complete mystery to me why I did that. I have no idea. Some things we can't explain.
Right.
So I'm ready to be done with this. And so I'm hoping to I've been going back and forth between the sweater for Ben and the socks for my brother because I really want to be done with both of them because they have some bad juju. Both of them have a little bad juju. And so I'm hoping this one is successful because I don't know what I will do if I can't even think about that at all. It will be successful.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it's just a matter of getting it to be the right length. And he's not allowed to open the refrigerator door without first trying on your sweater.
Yes, and the thing is, he came home last weekend, and then he came home for the Thanksgiving weekend. But, so much energy he worked one day for the Thanksgiving break. He worked one day, I think the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, he worked for this guy that he knows that puts up Christmas lights for people on their houses. So he did that he was gone. Well, it was the day I fell. Oh, I didn't mention that. I wasn't going to mention that. It was Wednesday and he got home like at 7:30. So he worked from 7 to 7:30. So he, I didn't get a chance to do it. And then he's been gone every day skiing and bike riding and hiking. So it's really hard to pin him down.
As I said, he's not allowed to open the refrigerator without first putting on the sweater.
Yes, I know. Oh my God.
That would be one way to pin him down.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say, Kelly, because I let it slip. And so you don't have to edit this out. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. But I did on that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I said to Ben, I didn't want to cook. So I was just going to walk down to the Mediterranean place and get us 2 gyros. And on the way down, I fell in the alley because it was dark. I got tripped on the concrete. But I'm fine. I'm totally fine. But I was kind of, I'm a little banged up. So like when I cooked, I put on latex gloves because my hands were quite cut up and my knees, and then I have an abrasion on my face. But it did look like I went to the bar and got into a fight. But I did not. But I'm fine. I wasn't gonna mention it, and then I just slipped up when I. So you don't have to take the time to edit that out.
Oh, okay.
Just clear that up. But I'm
worried,
fine. Yeah, they're not worried. I'm totally fine. It was just kind of dumb. I should have brought a light because the light, the alley, some people have lights that are on motion sensors and they come on and some people don't. And I was in that section where people don't have lights, but I've gone up and down that alley for years. I'm just a fluke, So anyway, I'm fine.
Well, that's good.
So anyway, that's all I have project wise. I just am trying to get these done. I kind of want to get them off, both of them off the needles by Christmas and just give them to them and get them out of the house.
Yeah.
And I think I'm on track to do that.
Oh, that's good.
So that's it for projects. I don't have anything else. Yeah. And then I want to get back to that spinning, yarn, get back to that. So
yeah, that was really nice. I'm kind of excited to make something out of the yarn that I spun like that. The one braid plied with the braid, the one braid plied with the braid of that Eugene Textile Center silk. I think both of mine were merino silk, but one had more silk. Anyway, I have now I have some skeins of that to knit with, and I need to figure out a project. Yeah. So I did want to mention, do you have anything more with projects?
No, I have nothing to say about projects. I'm just trying to get through these and get rid of them get this energy out of the house. So anyway, but go on to because I know what you're going to talk about here. So I'm going to let you talk about this. So.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say is that I discovered that my Hoopla library app, which is, I have 2 library cards. One is the Salinas Library and the other one is the Monterey County Free Library. And the Salinas Public Library, I noticed I had the Libby app that both of them were on. And then I noticed that the Salinas Library, I went to their website for something and saw that they had a different app as well, the Hoopla app. So I downloaded the Hoopla app, and it has different books on it than the Libby app. So like if I'm looking for a book, I've been listening to the Vera stand-up series that Anne, she did the Shetland series. of books. Anne Cleves is the name of the woman. So I'm hopping back and forth between apps to find the book and library cards to find the books, right? Because not one library doesn't have all of them. But what I discovered, getting back to it, is that the Hoopla app has Craftsy classes. And I had Craftsy way back when it was, the original Craftsy. And I took the Amy Herzog class on Craftsy, and I took a couple of other classes. And when they were bought out, I think they were bought by NBC. Some TV station bought them, I think, and they changed to a subscription model instead of you just go on and buy the classes you want. And so I stopped. I didn't get a subscription, and I think I bought a sourdough bread, a sourdough bread or a bread baking class, maybe a regular bread baking class. I had bought a lace pattern making class. And then now they're back. Craftsy is back as Craftsy. I forget even what they were in the meanwhile. Something blue. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yes, Kelly, reel it back in.
Why in the heck does it matter? The main point is, if your
Do you remember the main point? Okay.
Yes. If there is a point. If your library has the Hoopla app, you can check out Craftsy classes, which I think is really cool. So I looked a lot of sewing.
Sorry, I'm still chuckling. I'm sorry. Okay. Let me pull it together here. Okay.
A lot of sewing, some knitting and crocheting. I didn't go through the whole library of them, but anyway, so if you have the Hoopla app, or if you're interested in Craftsy classes to check out at the library, you might be able to get them through your local library's Hoopla app. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, and this is mostly for the California audience, but you've heard me talk about Sally Fox and Vreseis. I can't remember how you pronounce it. I looked it up one time. You can find her on Google. And we'll have a link in the show notes, because one of the things that I saw in her Instagram feed was she's doing walking tours. The history of extra long staple cotton. And she's the woman who she's been a cotton breeder since her college days. Her graduate work was in the breeding of cotton, and then got really into it and has had farms in many different places over the years. But the place where she is now, she's finally gotten, cracked into her old bins of seed cotton, and she's now got breeding plots, I guess you call them, where she's making sure that they she pollinates this one with that one, etc. And so she's doing these walking tours, and I'll just read from her website. It says, walking tours of the section of the cotton breeding nursery, which contains some of the most famous extra long staple cottons from the 19th century through the end of the 20th century. Sea Island, Ashmouni, Giza 45 to Pima 57. Plan for about an hour of walking and talking, wearing comfortable shoes. These tours are meant to support and celebrate the 40 years that I've been breeding cottons for organic farming and modern ecological textile processing. I think that would be so fun. I don't know if I'll get up there. I would like to do it. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get up there before her season of doing this year ends. And she's in Yolo County, just west of Woodland, in Brooks, California, a little bit northwest of Sacramento. But so for anybody who's up in that area, I would say definitely check out her tours.
I'm looking at the website. Yeah, it's only December 4th. Yeah.
Yeah. But
well, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think it would be, if she continues in the springtime, or I don't know if it would be so interesting in the springtime, but if there's another opportunity to go, I don't think I'll be able to make a December 4th tour, but if there's another opportunity for me to go, I'd really like to try it. And anybody who's up in that area, if you're interested, I just think she's so interesting. her vision of what she has been trying to do for the past 40 years is to a good extent being realized. I mean, I know she has a longer vision than that, but I'm just really impressed by what she's been able to accomplish and her persistence and doggedness to keep making progress. So anyway, well worth the $75, I think, if you had the time and the ability to go. So that's it for me, Marsha.
All right. Well, then I guess we'll say goodbye. I don't have much else to talk about. So
okay. Our Winter Weave Along is continuing through March. And sometime in February, Marsha will have something to talk about because she's taking a weaving class.
Yes, I'm taking the weaving class.
So that would be fun to hear about.
Okay. Well, I will. I'm going to let you go. I think I'm going to go. Actually, even though it's the morning, I think I'm going to go lie down.
Okay.
I'm still in recovery mode.
Marsha just had a little too much Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's what
sounds
I'm
like
do.
A perfect thing to do on the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Yes, yeah. Okay, we'll talk in 2 weeks.
All right.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 U's.
Doing our part for World Fleece.